So I don't know if you have heard, but it's Christmas. But the good thing about Christmas is that you get to spend more money on books for other people, and that's really fun. I can recommend buying books because it doesn't give you the stress of buying something experience and having no idea whether they'll like it or if they'll even bother to book it. It stays away from the problems of fast fashion and plastic use, animal tested products, and all of the other kind of things that come with those little Christmas packages by Tills. It stays away from all of that. Books are a great physical thing that you can still turn up and give somebody, but they're not playing, I don't think, playing so much into the kind of consumerist, give me everything kind of feel of Christmas. They're also a piece of piss to wrap. So I have picked out 3 groups of people that I personally struggle to buy for, and I found 3 options for each person. I'm allergic to the capitalist machine. If you find this helpful and there are other topics that I haven't covered, I might do another video before Christmas. No promises. I'm a very busy person. Here are the 3 that I have today. So the first one is children. Children that aren't yours. My biggest fear, or second biggest fear, my biggest fear would be a child that was mine. I always want to buy kids' books because that's what I loved getting when I was a kid. And also I'm like, kids are the future readers of the world and potentially future customers that I can sell books to as I am in publishing. So I always like to give books to children, but it's often hard when you don't know the child and you also don't want to do a gendered thing. So here are some like cool books that I really like. So this one is Dream Big, Little Leader. And what I like about this book is that it's highlighting lots of BAME leaders in their fields, but it's not making a big thing of it. It's not like the diverse book for children. It's just kind of like leaders that you should know about. And I feel like that's the right way to approach social change with children, is to not make it a big deal, just to show them that it should be part of their norm. So we've got like Bessie Coleman flew her aeroplane high. Katherine Johnson helped send a man to the moon. Be bold like Stephanie, Benita and Mary. Mary Prince used her voice to tell her story. Go the distance like Wilma, Raven and Tessa. Wilma Rudolph couldn't walk but learned to run. And you can kind of like look up the stories behind them, but this is for quite a young child. So they're very simple sentences, and it's got this kind of like bite-proof cardboard that I just loved watching children dribble on in the shop when I worked in a bookshop. It's $6.99. It's a really good price point, and yeah, I like it a lot. I support it. The next one is Jen Campbell, my friend, but also one of my favourite authors, who has a new book of Franklin's adventures. So you've probably seen me talk about the previous Franklin book. This one is Franklin and Luna Go to the Moon. It's lovely foil. It's really big. It's illustrated by Katie Harnett, and the illustrations are like absolutely gorgeous. You don't need to have read the first one to have this one. So I just love how, I wonder if they should just make books this big for adults, because it's just such a like nice engrossing thing when books are this big. And the kind of like the fact that you can see the grains in the crayons where she's coloured is like so nice and homely, and I just think it's a lovely present for any gender, and Luna is the hero of my life. Finally, this one is a scribe book. It's called Amazing Babes. This is for a reading age below Rebel Girls. It came out a few years before Rebel Girls, and bets on if you're buying a book for a kid this year, they probably already own Rebel Girls. So this is a book by Ezra Sarlos and drawings by Grace Lee. As I grow, I want the courage of Aung San Suu Kyi. I want the compassion of Mum Shirl. I want to never lose the excitement of possibility like Gloria Steinem. And it's just got these like wonderful, lovely, huge illustrations. I'm struggling to keep the book in the frame. And what the other one doesn't have that I really like, that this one does, is a key at the back explaining a bit more about all of their lives. So if the kids have questions, or if you have questions, you can read a little bit more of a bio about it and get a fuller idea faster of what the women are really about, instead of just like paying eye service to them and forgetting them. So I really like that, and I think this is a really nice, big, significant, lovely present. That is $12.99, very reasonable. Next, I want to talk about people who are sad at Christmas, or either they don't enjoy Christmas, or you know that they're going through a bit of a rough patch at the moment, and you don't want to give them like a bait grief for beginners or depression by Delilah Therapist, but you want to give them something to like acknowledge where they're at and not give them anything too like stressful or pressing, but also just give them something nice. So the first one I have is 100 Hugs by Chris Riddell. It's a really small little book. a book to warm the hearts of those who need a hug. And it's literally just these lovely illustrations by Chris Riddell of various fantasy creatures, all hugging each other. So you've got like Alice in Wonderland, I think, hugging the rabbit. You've got Puss in Boots hugging another cat. Two fish hugging. I don't know. They're actually really sincere drawings. Two male pirates hugging. They're actually really sincere, lovely drawings. And two ghosts hugging. I love this one. And they have like a really like lovely energy to them. It's really, I don't know, I just love it. Here's two trolls hugging. It just makes me so happy. And it's like a lovely, like, all-age, light-hearted thing. So you could give this to a kid, I guess. But it's also, like, a really lovely thing to have as an adult, that's, like, no statements, no pressure. Just a kind of, like, here are 100 hugs for all the times I can't hug you. So yeah, squishy, but I like it. For somebody a bit harder nails, a little bit more skeptical, it's just going to roll their eyes at your hug book. This is December Stories 1 by Ian Sansom. Ian Sansom wrote one of my favourite books called Paper, a Eulogy, all about the history of the written word and publishing a paper, which I highly recommend. He also was actually my lecturer at Warwick University for creative writing during my masters. I actually already read Paper, a Eulogy at that point, and I was like, oh my god, he's a star. Anyway, he's written this new book called the subtitle is An Antidote to the Festive Season, and it's lots of like short, there's a tiny little story for every day in December, and they're all like short, sharp, sarcastic stories, like The Atheist's Guide to Christmas, a criminal that breaks into a house on Christmas Eve and gets caught by a child who thinks he's Santa. The kind of dull aspects of Christmas, really, that everybody experiences. A kind of more like truthful look at what Christmas can mean for so many people, and that's okay. And I don't know, I just think it's really like witty and biting and easy to read and funny, and this book is like that intelligent friend that's in the sidelines being like, well, you know, this is how things are, blah, blah, blah. The thing about this is, it says something really insightful to you about life, but it's also like, I mean, no one can be cheerful all the time. So yeah, I really recommend that. And then also one I recently read that I'm going to probably talk about more on this channel is Hotel Silence. I recently went to Iceland. I went on a work trip and I interviewed some authors and some publishers and the director of the Icelandic Literary Festival, and also some booksellers. One of the booksellers gave me this book when she was in her shop. I was really touched by it, and it's a book that is the winner of the Icelandic Literary Prize. It's published in English by Pushkin Press, who publish lots and lots of translations. I consumed it on the plane home and I absolutely loved it. It's about a man who's retired and his life is kind of slipping away, not in a violent way and not in a way that everything's been horribly taken from him in a kind of job-like way, but just in the fact that he had a divorce 7 years ago and he still kind of misses his wife. He feels very separate from his daughter. He feels like his neighbours don't really get him. He doesn't really have a purpose anymore since he's retired, and he decides he wants to kill himself. So he tries various ways, but realises that he doesn't want his daughter to find him. He doesn't want anybody in his immediate life to be affected. So he decides to take a plane ride to a war-torn country that is notoriously the most dangerous country in the world. It's just recovering from a horrible war. They never name what the country is, but he arrives in this derelict hotel with just the clothes that he has on him and a suitcase that contains a drill and a hook and a rope. A young boy and a young girl that run the hotel because their aunties fled the country, and the girl/woman kind of notices that he has a drill, and she's like, I see you have a drill. Do you think you could put the hinges back on that door? And he's like, sure. And she's like, oh, do you think you could help over here as well? And then slowly he starts to use this drill that he was intending to drill a hook in the ceiling with for more practical things. And he doesn't really like have, I won't give anything away, but it's not a community fixes all, you've just got to have a bit of happiness in your life kind of resolution, but it's more of a like minute to minute finding a use for the things that might have killed you and slowly building reason back into your life and ways to connect with people, even when you just felt so apathetic about the whole idea of living. I thought this was really gentle and thoughtful and skillfully done and not too Hollywood razzmatazz. The writing's really nuanced, but it kind of like is slowly scrunching up your stomach, and you don't realise that it's scrunching your stomach until your stomach is already scrunched, and then you realise you're crying and you didn't even realise that you would Anyway, I think it's an incredible book. And then the third category is for people who are about to go to university, because for those people, you don't want to give them a book because they're probably about to read about more books than they've ever read in their whole fucking life, and they probably aren't gonna have time in the first term for like more extracurricular reading. So these are 3 books that I think are really cool and helpful. So the first one is Being an Adult, The Ultimate Guide to Moving Out, Getting a Job and Getting Your Act Together. I have learned so much from this book, and I'm 28. I feel like so many of these books are just like, be confident, believe in yourself, wash your hair, stuff like that. And this one is more just like, okay, here's how you bleed a radiator though. Here's the template for an email if you want to quit your job. Here is actually how a washing machine works and what settings you should put your clothes on. Here's how to break up with a friend. Here's how to break up with a boyfriend. Here's how to make friends. Here's some really simple recipes that you don't need to worry about. How to claim expenses. What workplace benefits are. What are references when you're renting a house. All of this stuff that I'm like, I can't believe nobody had published this when I was 20. Tips on orchestrating sharing a house with a friend. I don't know, it's just so thorough, so obviously orchestrated by somebody who's actually experienced and still remembers the little niggling details that can really pull your confidence down or stress you out if you don't understand. And they're just the things that people assume that you know that you actually don't. I think that everybody needs to know. There's some stuff in here that I was just like, oh, that was what that tax term means. That's really how credit cards work. Oh. The next one is New Erotica for Feminists. It's such a funny read. So this is just literally, I think, 4 friends who wrote it together to make each other laugh. The one on the back that's my favourite one to use in his example is, he calls me into his office and closes the door to promote me. He promotes me again and again and again. I am wild with ecstasy. I walk into my office building and a sharply dressed man walks in behind me. Feeling his eyes on me, I press the lift button. It lights up. The man doesn't press it again, just to make sure. She is such a MILF, the venture capitalist said, staring longingly at the woman striding confidently out of the conference room. Seriously, our MD gave a low, drawn-out whistle of approval. Now that is a mum I'd like to fund. Her user acquisition and retention rates are simply unparalleled. Ed Sheeran releases a new single called I'm in Love with Your Body of Work about Agatha Christie. It sells 9 billion copies, more than there are people on Earth. I'll stop now, but you get the idea. I'm fucking obsessed with this book. Hilarious. Everyone should read it. And then finally, Art Matters. This could be for somebody who's starting like an artistic humanities, like drama or art or English. But it could also be for somebody who's studying a science or like maths or something like that, and a more practical subject, but still has some art like hobbies, because I think it's so useful for that too. Again, illustrated by Chris Riddell. Is an illustrated essay by Neil Gaiman all about why art matters and why it's important to do it. So each page has only about this much writing on it. It's really simple to read. They kind of read like friendly, non-business like TED Talks. It contains 3 essays, I think. Yeah, Make Good Art, Making a Chair, and Art Matters. And they're all kind of about why the freedom of speech is so important, why the circulation of art should be valued, why you deserve to be paid for your art, why it's okay to never make a success out of your art, and why you should keep making it anyway. I've underlined this to death because I think it's really important, and it's such a lovely little gift to give to somebody as well, because it's just a kind of like little boost in their pocket, rather than being something really heavy like, I read this and I think that you should read it. Be bold, be rebellious, choose art, it matters. So yeah, that's that. I hope those suggestions were helpful. If you do buy books, I can't emphasize enough the importance of buying them from either an independent bookshop or somewhere that's going to pay the authors properly. It's as important as fair trade for clothes. It's as important as cruelty-free makeup. It's just important, okay? I say if you're going to buy somebody a book and like a little gift that's got plastic around it, or like something like that, maybe think about just spending a little bit more on the book at a bookshop. Maybe getting the free bookmark from that bookshop and putting it in and showing that you bought it from an independent bookshop, telling them which bookshop you bought it from and how long you spent picking it, rather than being like, the story behind this book is I moved it into my basket on Amazon. It's just a lot more of a thoughtful story, and you could even buy a little postcard from the bookshop or something just to be like, look, I got it. I think that's nicer than like what I used to do, which is buying a book and then like, oh shit, it doesn't look enough, I'm going to buy them a packet of Kit Kats as well, or like some kind of like shitty bubble bath in a plastic bottle that they're not going to use and smells like rotten gel pens. So I've definitely changed my attitude to like trying to look generous rather than like actually being generous, not only to the person I'm giving the present to, but also the person I'm buying the present from. Also, I can like something that I have started ordering from, the place I started ordering books from recently has actually been the Guardian books online, because one, they defs pay their taxes. I know the guy who runs it, trust me. And then also because they the money the Guardian makes from that bookshop helps fund independent news, which is something that's a gift that keeps on giving. A gift the whole world needs. So I actually would recommend, I'm going to start using links below to Guardian books. That has been the place that I'm like, oh, I actually feel quite good about that as a place to buy books from. And they often have really good discounts too. So I'm not saying it's not going to be cheap. So yeah, I hope that helped. If you want to support this channel, you can turn your ad blocker off, you can subscribe and make sure you watch and comment. You can share this video with somebody that you think might like it. Or you could join the Gumption Club. The Gumption Club is a cool online club for shrewd and spirited people that I run. So if you tip me $1 or more a video, you can join a secret Facebook group, and I will add you on Goodreads. And in the Facebook group, we share resources and chat about life and share struggles with our art. And it's super fun. And sometimes I even live stream in there when I've got time. So yes. And I'm always on hand for Gumption Club members if they would like book recommendations. I do those like within a couple of hours. So if you would like personal recommendations, I can suggest that. I hope you all are having a very merry run up to Christmas. You're not getting too stressed. I'm not stressed because I've bought people books for Christmas and they're piss easy to wrap. So I'm chill. Okay. What else have I got to say? I think that's it. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Frank Slog out.